Good morning. Good morning, commissioners and staff. Keith Rootsart with the Giant Kelp Restoration Project. Glad to see you all here. I'm going to tell you a little story that I said on Monday in this same place, at this podium at the OPC meeting. And what I did was, with volunteers, I restored kelp 4 times in Monterey. The first time was at Lover's Point. We were working on a project there with volunteers on 20 patch reefs, where we reduced the urchin density in a scientific experiment down to very low levels to see if kelp could naturally recruit. And it did, but we only got 1 kelp to grow. So that was at Lover's. Then we went to Tanker's Reef, and there was an existing kelp forest there when we showed up, and we grew that kelp forest by all the divers going in there and clearing out the urchins that were coming in. And then we had to leave that and go and work on the grid, which is a treatment area, and we cleared that area out, and kelp came back there, 11 acres of kelp. And what just happened now, like just recently, is that when we were working to the east to try and find another place, a year later, kelp's growing there now. So it really does work when we go and do this mitigation measure. And the other thing I wanted to tell you about is when I was diving recently at Eric's Pinnacle, which is in Monterey, I saw, usually there's like kelp on top of all the pinnacles, but this time I saw something I have never seen before. I was in a hole deep in the crevice, and there was a triggerfish there. Triggerfish is from the equator. Like, it does not belong in Monterey at all. And when I was down in Baja, I was finding urchins that are from Panama, right? Everything is just getting warmer in this place, and we really need to get these efforts back in the water. And if I'm not in the water calling urchins, then I'm here and I'm writing petitions, and you know how bad that can be. So just thank you so much, and we'll talk to you later. Thanks.
Great. Okay. So this is to act on not marine protected area, to act on regulation change petitions that are not MPA ones. It's a standing agenda item, so it's to receive new regulation change petitions, act on 3 regulation change petitions previously received, and receive any comments on any that are referred. So the 3 petitions that are scheduled for action are 2024-04, request to amend recreational ocean fishing regulations to authorize use of harpoon to assist in landing finfish, especially tunas. And the recommendation on that is based on a department memo in your meeting materials to recommend supporting that for tunas specifically in a future rulemaking. The next 2 petitions, petition 2024-10 and 2024-12, have undergone review. These are both related to harvest of recreational take of sea urchins, 2010 using hookah and airlift systems to increase efficiency of collecting urchins, and 12 to allow unlimited recreational take of purple and red urchins in 10 counties between Humboldt and Santa Barbara. So staff, there's a staff memo for petition 2410, and also Exhibit A1 has the recommendation and rationale for number 12. And in both of those cases, the recommendation is to deny for the reasons in those materials. Thank you.
Thanks very much. And I think we have a presentation here from Keith Rootsart that's been approved for 3 minutes as petitioner.
And President Murray, Mr. Rootsart also has 3 speakers online that have ceded time to him that are present.
Okay, perfect. Thanks.
I don't think it will take that long. Keith Rootsart with the Giant Kelp Restoration Project. Can I have the slides up on the projector here? So I've combined these two petitions together because they're kind of related. So this is regarding 2024 10 and 12. The next slide, please. So the recreational efforts in California, there's basically 3 of them in California. One's at Casper Cove, and one was at Tankers Reef, it's now canceled. And there's another one at Stillwater Cove in Sonoma, where recreational divers are removing urchins by hand and putting them in cans, and that's the recreational effort right now. The next slide, please. So what I had petitioned was to allow additional take in these 10 coastal counties. Right now in the green ones, Humboldt, Mendocino, and Sonoma, you're allowed to take 40 gallons of urchins at this point. And I'm asking to add 7 more coastal counties, Marin, all the way down to Santa Barbara, and allow unlimited culling of purple and red urchins in these places. Next slide, please. So I got a response from the California Sea Urchin Commission, and they were against us doing red urchins in the region where they do the fishing, up in the North Coast, and they really would rather the recreational didn't really impact their stocks as much. But we have no active red urchin fishery in Monterey. Next slide, please. So the Fish and Wildlife response and the Commission's response is that the recreational urchin harvest from the Tankers Reef and Casper Cove is not complete at this point, that this should feed into the KRMP process, the Kelp Restoration Management Plan process, and that we should sustain a red urchin fishery regardless of whether a red sea urchin harvest is currently occurring in a particular location. Next slide, please. So I modified this to say, well, let's not remove purple and red urchins in the areas where they're fishing on the North Coast, and only have Monterey and San Luis Obispo, where there's not an active red urchin fishery, to allow us to use to remove purple and red urchins in that place. But everywhere else, let's just have recreational divers able to remove purple urchins. Next slide, please. So there are 2 methods of using it, are the hand removal, which you can see they're doing at Stillwater Cove, and by culling, which is a better efficiency. Next slide, please. So the airlift, right, is more efficient than anything else, but that was the other petition, was to apply to use an airlift in these for recreational use. Next slide, please. I might run out of time on that one. So this is what the airlift looks like. I made it in my barn. It's pretty awesome. You put air into it, and you get urchins out of it, and it's really pretty cool. Next slide, please. Call it the vacuumator. So recreational use, it's permissible, in my view, because the recreational fishing is so ubiquitous to everything. But it requires an air compressor, and it requires a certain comfort in diving skills that I don't know that everybody has. I mean, I feel comfortable myself, but maybe not everybody. And you need to have an OSHA exemption to dive with this kind of equipment. We don't have that, or insurance is a problem, so it's probably not a good recreational tool. Next slide, please.
Keith, I do need to ask you to wrap up.
Okay. Thanks. So the Sea Urchin Commission response was that this is commercial fishing gear, and the starving purple red urchins are still considered commercial if they reach the dock. Next slide, please. So the Fish and Wildlife response was also this is commercial fishing gear, that the recreational methods are sufficient for what is available now, and that unknown bycatch potential, and then Kelp Restoration Management Plan addresses these methods. Next slide. I'm going to skip 3, I promise.
Yeah, I do need you to wrap up, Keith.
Okay.
We've got a field trip to get to at 3.
I understand. Okay. Yes. So, so John Hulk has been using this for a while. They own the boats. They can pick up all the urchins efficiently. But the problem is that it doesn't work for restoration. So, next slide, please. What we like to do is change the commercial code to allow the use of
Keith,
airlift.
you got to wrap up, really.
This is the last slide, I swear. So we want to join the red urchin fishery and allow entry for us to be able to use this as a tool in the commercial fishery. Thank you.
Thanks. How many public speakers do we have on this agenda item, not counting the ones that ceded their time to Keith?
6.
6. Okay. Yeah. Oh, okay. Okay. So you can give everyone 2 minutes, but certainly encourage being succinct on this. But we are acting on these petitions, so I do want to give people 2 minutes. Thanks.
Sean Hastings, go ahead, please.
Thank you. Good afternoon, President Murray, commissioners, and department staff. Sean Hastings with Channel Islands National Marine Sanctuary, and I'm speaking on behalf of the National Marine Sanctuaries off California in our West Coast region. And we're here to support the Department of Fish and Wildlife staff recommendation to deny petition 2024-12, the request to allow unlimited recreational take of purple and red sea urchins in 10 counties. The department's staff's recommendations are thorough, comprehensive, and Sanctuary supports them. As you may know, the Greater Farallones and Monterey Bay sanctuaries are involved in kelp restoration efforts with department staff in the Central Coast counties. The other important point that the staff have made from the department is that we do have viable commercial red sea urchin fisheries in our national marine sanctuaries. And for these reasons, we support the staff recommendation to deny the petition. Thank you.
Ana Maria Sarmiento, go ahead, please.
Hi. Sorry, I meant to donate my time to Keith if that would be still possible so that he can finish his explanation.
Mr. Rutsart's done speaking if you'd.
Yeah, he's done speaking. So if you'd like to say something, please do. Otherwise, we should move on to our next speaker.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to say that I definitely, one of the divers that I have been involved in the project, the previous project that Keith actually had with the Giant Kelp Restoration Program project. And we, with my partner and my friend, my best friend, we were both divers that donated our time and went there to learn and help as much as we could. And we've seen how it is down there, and it's definitely not something that any fishery would want or be interested in, or even like for recreational divers to take in a handful of urchins for them to eat, for example, because there's nothing in them. We've seen how empty it is because we've dove other areas of Monterey as well. Both protected areas are also non-protected areas. We've been in Casper Cove. We've seen the barren areas. We've seen the differences between the areas that have been cold and the areas that have not been cold, and the differences between not only the kelp, but also the other fish and other species that live in that area, and how some of the species that used to be able to eat and manage the urchins by themselves have been gone from the areas, regardless if it was the starfish that had the melting disease, or the fish that were overfished, or the otters that learned not to eat them because now they're starving. So if there is any way that we can support that program, either the airlift, which is a new incentive that he's been working on, or any other way to support Keith's idea to bring back that recreational diver support, that will definitely help in different ways. He's been very thorough about all of that. So I really support that. Thank you.
Alex Savage,
Hello, can you hear me?
barely.
Okay. Sorry, I'll try and speak kind of loud.
That's better.
So I have also worked with the G2KR project. The proof that we have seen doing this project is that the removal of urchins does contribute to the health and regrowth of the kelp forest, which has been severely declining in the past, 10 to 20 years. I am a diver. I've been a recreational diver. While I don't fish, I do care a lot about the protected area in Monterey specifically. So just looking at all of the data that G2KR has collected, I just want to voice my support for any project that they have going forward to remove more of these urchins, because that is what the data has shown to help all of the kelp forest restoration. As we know, this is a hub of various ecological niches that need to be allowed to behave in their natural ways. So anything we can do to restore them to the balance that they should have, I am in support of. Thank you.
Camille, go ahead, please.
Can you hear me?
Barely. Can you speak up a little?
Okay, sorry. Is this better?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
We can't hear you, Camille.
Camille, we seem to have lost you.
Better? Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yes, go ahead.
Okay, I apologize. I just wanted to speak in support of Keith, and thank you very much for your time and your consideration on all of these projects.
Liza Schmidt. You need to unmute. Please go ahead. I'm going to take a guess that Liza is the iPhone caller. iPhone, go ahead, please.
Thank you so much. I'm having trouble with my computer. So on this issue, I want to chime in on a couple of things. One of them, not just a fisherman, but I'm also a scuba diver and a free diver, and I have personally seen the impacts of the urchin in the Monterey County. That being said, I'm definitely on board with a collaborative effort with the recreational diving community in removing the purple sea urchin, but I think it's absolutely critical that we give all of the red sea urchin removal projects to commercial fishermen as a priority. Given the impacts that the commercial fishing fleet is already facing, we should absolutely protect their investments and give them priority. I also am absolutely against the use of the compressor and the airlift and the vacuum system for a lot of reasons. One of those being, as a scuba certified and free diver myself, it is imperative that you are extremely delicate in how you touch or hover over the seafloor, because it is rich with microscopic life and a microcosm of the beginnings of life. And I just can't see how an industrial removal of sea urchin is going to be beneficial to the seafloor in any way. Those are my primary issues with the sea urchin project.
That concludes our speakers on this item.
Thanks so much. Commissioners, any questions? Otherwise, would somebody like to make a motion?
Move that the commission adopts the staff recommendation to petition 2404 and deny petitions 2024-10 and 2024-12.
I'll second. So we have a motion by Commissioner Anderson and a second by me. Sherry, could you read the roll, please?
Commissioner Anderson?
Aye.
President Murray?
Aye.
Commissioner Sklar? Commissioner Hostler-Carmison?
Aye.
Vice President Zavaleta?
Aye. So the motion passes unanimously 4-0. Commissioner Sklar has left the meeting.
Okay. You want me to come in? We start over again, Mike?